and
Right.
you don't have
No,
the
exactly.
knowledge out there. So that's why
No. And
getting
the
it out.
experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry for
Um,
that. That sounds really scary and frustrating.
yeah. So as soon as they put him on the EEG, the second time, hips arrhythmia was quite obvious. I mean, he was barely on it. I mean, it was like, it's so hard to get those leads on, and then
Oh
it was
boy.
like, he was on it for 10 minutes. It was so quick.
Uh-huh.
But was discussing what treatment to take. And again, we've done enough
You've done your
reading,
research.
right, that we knew that vigabatrin, Sabril, was out there, and it had just been approved by the FDA. Because this was 2009. Is that right? Yeah, fall of 2009.
2009.
And so that hospital's normal protocol, I think, was going to be ACTH, and we said, well, we want to do vigabatrin.
Oh, ACTH,
or Sabril. Which the doctor worked with us on. He said, okay, and did the paperwork and located. It wasn't easy to locate because, of course, the hospital didn't keep it on hand. So I think it took a couple days before we could get it for our son, maybe fill the prescription, and we started it. And this would have been sometime in November. Basically, all through the holidays, he was having infantile spasms, and he was on vigabatrin, and we were just waiting and hoping that they would stop. By Christmas, really, we knew they weren't stopping. It wasn't working. And so we were with my husband's family in Canada, so we had to wait until we came back home to do the next thing. But by the beginning of January, somewhere in there, our son was admitted to the hospital so that we could start the ACTH protocol. And ACTH, I think, actually the hips arrhythmia was gone before he was released from the hospital after 3 days or something.
Wow.
Yes.
On the ACTH.
Yes. On ACTH.
That's really interesting.
Their protocol, I think, was a 4 or 6 week. Every hospital had a different way of doing it in terms of dosing. And so we still had to do, I think, another 4 weeks of, ACTH administration at home.
Oh, that's tough. Yeah, with the needles.
Oh, that was fun. No, giving my little baby shots, which I'm not a medical person. I'd never given anyone a shot in my entire life.
Neither had I. I still remember it. I still remember it clear as day.
My mother-in-law did come out to stay with us so that we could trade off because it was so traumatizing. For us, my son never cried.
Really?
Never cried.
Well, that's a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, a trooper.
But again, one of those things where I'm thinking, why did you advocate for the newfangled drug when the old school one would have been the thing to fix it? All these sort of, he had infantile spasms that much longer because this miracle treatment didn't end up being the
didn't work for you.
Didn't work for him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting because for us, it was the opposite. My daughter, we started with the ACTH and it did work. And then vigabatrin was still not approved. So we were able to get some and that worked. But I've heard every flavor of story with, nothing working, which is terrifying. So, so you were able to get the spasms under control. And, so from there, how, is Colin doing? What are the other manifestations of TSC? And, just give me a little bit of a.
Well, he still has seizures. He has seizures every day. And so we've never, again, I think we thought there'd probably been a couple months period where we thought we had seizure control, which in hindsight, I don't think we probably did. We've also, and this is not to bum anyone out, but we've also learned a lot more about subclinical seizures and subclinical activity, sort of pre-seizure activity where the brain is definitely doing something, may not manifest into a full-blown seizure, but there's
something's going on.
Something's going on.
Yes.
And again, so that in hindsight, I don't think there's ever been a period of time where something wasn't going on. But I was grateful for those periods of time when he wasn't having,
Absolutely,
bigger events. But so he still has seizures. He's nonverbal, like he has a few sounds, and it's been hard for him to talk. He's a fairly expressive kid, but he definitely gets lost, I think, and can't often express what he wants or doesn't want because of that.
That sounds challenging.
Yeah, it is. As he's getting older, it's probably one of the biggest challenges, especially if something is uncomfortable. I think that's just the saddest. He's a very easygoing, pretty happy kid. But if something's making him uncomfortable, and it's rare, but if it's something's making him uncomfortable, he just cries and, can't or won't point to where and what. Right? So it's like your baby, you're trying to figure it out. You're like, is it your tummy? Is it your head? Is it your toenail? Is it your teeth? And you just feel so horrible for not being able to know what's wrong.
Wow. Yeah, that's tough. That is tough. So he sounds like a great kid, and the impact, it's just it's a tough disease. How about family support? Sounds like your husband and yourself are pretty on the same page and working together to get through.
I think what has been moving his medical care up to Denver was incredibly important, not just for the actual care, but also I think for us. Denver is, we're at the Children's Hospital in Aurora, and they are, as a facility, it just fits for our family. They're incredibly kind people. It's very pretty. It's bright. It's easy enough for us to get to. We usually fly. Sometimes we drive. And we have had friends and family in the Denver area. So
good.
We can stay at someone's house. If we want to or need to. And Denver has been, we slowly sort of started all of the sort of specialty care up there. So they have the kidney center, and they have the eye clinic, and they have a dental clinic, which we haven't managed to quite get into. It's not, that's just another issue. It's just about getting Colin sedated for an x-ray, and he's sedated for so many other things that it's
triaging. Yeah.
Right.
Figuring out what, yes, I get it. Yeah. But the one-stop shopping with clinics is really great.
It is great. And it's the kind of facility where when the doctors are in the room with you, they ask, do you have any more questions? Is there anything else you can do? And they won't leave the room until you say no.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's really something. I never feel cut short or not listened to in Denver. Let's put it that way. That's good.
Props for the Denver clinic. That's great.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty important.
It's really important. I can't tell you how important the clinic that we go to and the doctors there have been, as far as making that human connection and giving you time to think through and ask questions, because it's stressful.
Yes,
those appointments.
Well, yeah, exactly, and just GI department. Thinking. Again, like I said, as things come up, so Colin, we did put him on the ketogenic diet. He was on the diet for years, but that got complicated quite quickly, and he ended up with a G-tube.
Oh boy.
And so, which then, he had some GI issues. In the end, we realized it was because of the diet, and we had to take him off the diet. But he still has the tube, and we don't think we'll ever probably be able to get rid of it, which is an interesting,
Yeah.
pickup. The great thing about it is that he's the most hydrated kid in the world.
Yeah.
He rarely gets sick. We think it's because he's hydrated and he gets great nutrition no matter how he feels or what he wants to eat. He gets all the stuff he's supposed to have.
That's a
And
positive.
the meds never get refused.
Yes.
So, and I feel for all the, I mean, I remember some of the meds he's had to take. I remember it was the Topamax, I think, was the one that was like, I used to describe it as electrically bitter. And I couldn't believe, I mean, it was like, it like vibrated all over my tongue. I'm not sure if it was Topamax. It was one of the medications he had to take. And I remember thinking, how has he ever tolerated this? Ever? It doesn't matter what it's in. It's gross. Yeah.
Yeah. So, thank God for small blessings, I guess, with, him being healthy physically. That's excellent. Yeah.
Okay.
Really great.
Yeah.
So,
no,
go ahead.
As I say, so the clinic is really important, really important, in feeling like we're, on the right track.
Good.
There. Colin has a big sister who has been through every bit of this with us. And
what's her name and how old?
Nora. And she's 11. And,
awesome.
It's definitely shaping, I'm sure, who she is. And I know it's been tough, but she tries her best.
Yeah,
that her experience as a big sister is different than a lot of people.
Yes. And it's good that you're really aware and cognizant of that. And there's nothing it really gives them a depth and understanding of life that a lot of kids really don't have. And sadly, it's at a young age and in a tough way, but there's a lot of positives I've seen with, the dynamic between those that have it and those that don't. So,
she'll be a very empathetic person, I think. She just doesn't have a choice.
Yes, yeah. Let's see. So I guess, you've covered a lot in our discussion. How do you cope? What's your best go-to? And you can piggyback that, or you can tell me like what you would what your advice. You've kind of given some really strong advice. If you were receiving the diagnosis now, as opposed to, what would you say would be most helpful? I guess kind of give me your thoughts on that if you can.
Well, I noticed, sorry, I think that there's the day-to-day coping, which is just make sure that I shower and get out of the house. I would say that Colin's diagnosis did change our sort of family plans a little bit. I think we always had this idea that I eventually would go back to work, just whatever that was going to be. I had been teaching before. I did try to teach part-time for a couple of years when he went to preschool, and it was pretty brutal and exhausting. And we ended up getting an au pair to help us with childcare, and it ended up being more work.
Yes.
And for no financial gain. And so that just sort of fell apart. But having somebody who is available, Colin's schedule is sort of complicated. He doesn't go to school full time. He has therapy part of the day and school part of the day. And so someone has to drive him. And sometimes if he's not well, he can't go to school, or if someone at school isn't well, sometimes we keep him home because he is on a Senator. And so we don't want him to get sick with something horrible.
Yes.
And so, someone has to be available. And so being a sort of very stay-at-home mom was not the plan. And
I can understand.
Rolling with that. I'm rolling with that. So having, trying to have things that are mine, things that I can do that don't have to do with, just taking care of Colin or the family,
Mm-hmm.
because that wasn't really